It's just all there to distract us. They just put out these silly
Hmm.
stories to distract us from what's really going on in the UK. Going on for the Southport, I definitely think there is a bigger cover up. First and foremost, the images of this young man is not consistent. The first image I saw was an old man. Then they went to this young man. I'm not sure if people have noticed, but the actual images of him, they look very AI. It doesn't look real. And they definitely are trying to cover it up.
But
Yeah.
look, I want to speak about Kemi Badenoch
Mhm.
because even though I didn't support her becoming Conservative Party leader, I was open to her doing well. I understood that she was a good orator. I understood that she had a good story. But I would argue that her launch as Tory party head honcho has been disastrous. And she's actually received more headlines than anything for her condemnation, believe it or not, of sandwiches. Yes, this is in an interview with The Spectator this week where she said, "What's a lunch break? Lunch is for wimps. I have food brought in and I work and eat at the same time. There's no time. Sometimes I will get a steak. I'm not a sandwich person. I don't think sandwiches are a real food. It's what you have for breakfast. I will not touch bread if it's moist." Now, even the Daily Telegraph has turned on her over this, saying that it was arrogant, self involved, and at war with the humble sandwich. Badenoch is everything true conservatives feared. And Nigel Farage has been scathing too. Now, of course, people have criticised him of racism for this. I'm going to read out the posts because I don't believe it's racist at all. But Nigel said of Kemi, "I am watching the Tory backbenchers as Kemi Badenoch gives another average performance at PMQs. There is almost no enthusiasm for her at all. They are in much deeper trouble than they know. Kemi has no idea what she is doing, no feel for the country, and no presence of delivery." Now, Sophie Corcoran, you backed Kemi, right? And you must be disappointed. Come on.
Yeah, I think, you know, in some sense, I would hope that there is a lot going on behind the scenes, which is why, she's as quiet. But I do feel like we've just disappeared. And this is one of the most frustrating things as a conservative is, to be quite honest, we've had to take the blame for almost everything for the last 14 years. And being in opposition has given us a real opportunity to take the fight to Labour more than perhaps we've ever had before. This government is a disaster. They're scoring open goal after open goal after open goal, yet we're just quiet on it. I think one of the difficult things that the Conservative Party has in comparison to Reform is that the Conservative Party is fundamentally boring. And the way that politics has changed, and there needs to be an acceptance of the way that politics has changed. It has become so embedded in culture, it's become so embedded in our daily lives. There are more people now that are engaged in politics, in perhaps not in traditional ways, than they ever have been before. And a lot of that comes through entertainment, a lot of that comes through character, a lot of that comes through charisma. It's why Boris Johnson was so successful. It's why, even though he's an absolute nutcase, Corbyn was
Hmm.
well received, because he had a personality. And the Conservative Party has become boring. We haven't necessarily seen the change that we want to see. We're letting open goals. And the one thing that really winds me up is this idea, well, we've got 4 years to the next election. Nonsense. No, we don't. We've got 5 months. We've got a really important mayoralty coming here where I live in Cambridgeshire. We've got a Labour mayor at the minute. That's a great opportunity to root out one of Labour's worst mayors. I mean, the man is awful. But again, we don't have, in parliamentary terms, yeah, we might have 4 or 5 years. And those who are sitting there cozy on their £90,000 salaries, knowing they've got a job for the next 4 years, might be great. But the real backbone of the party are the councillors, are the activists, are the mayors, are the associations. And these people are either on no salary or, £10,000 or whatever a council allowance is. And these people are potentially going to lose their seats in 5 months' time because we're not trying. We can't wait for 4 years. I'm sorry, we've got important elections to win. And without these county councillors, we've got no activists. And that's something we really struggle with. I ran a campaign last year. I ran the local election campaigns and general election campaigns. And I found the fact that Labour were busting in union after union after union. In my constituency, we lost by 118 votes. In the constituency where I live, we lost by 39 votes. We would have won those votes if we had people on the ground. But this is what happens when you don't value your membership and you don't try and start winning things like county council elections. It's not all about the general election, which I think is actually where Reform might also get themselves stuck. because they're doing well in these by-elections, but it's really easy to concentrate everything into a by-election because there's only a few elections happening at a time. As soon as Reform are going to have to start running hundreds and hundreds of elections at once, I mean, each council district is going to have 12. They might find themselves finding it actually a little bit more difficult because they still don't have the branches and the campaign infrastructure and the ability to know how to campaign locally than perhaps what the Conservatives do have. So I think that's what they're going to find difficult. Parliamentary wise, they're great, but local elections are a completely different matter altogether.
Based in Buji, how do you feel about Kemi Badenoch?
I think the media is over exaggerating. Like, that comment was just not that serious. I think going back to Sophie's statement, she said that the Conservative Party is very boring. And I just feel as though just because someone goes into politics, it doesn't mean they should start dancing around like a clown to entertain people for votes. The public is very smart, they're very intelligent, and they will know when someone is pretending to be something that they're not for the sake of votes. Now, when it comes to the comments of sandwiches, I think maybe Kemi Badenoch not having sandwiches or not having lunch breaks is how she was able to work her way to the top and become a Conservative Party leader. And at the same time, I think that statement is very telling of what she stands for. She stands for hard work. This country has become almost like a socialist country. We're so addicted to breaks and annual leave and handouts and everyone do this for us while we just sit back and relax and do the bare minimum. When really and truly what built this country is this desire to build and to not stop building and to not take breaks until you see progress. So I actually really support Kemi. I think that statement, it was just not that serious. It didn't need to make headlines.
But it also shows you how unserious our mainstream media is, of course, because everyone's now talking about the Ed Miliband sandwich eating mess, and Sly News even decided today that they should give him a softball on eating sandwiches. Watch this.
Just one more question about sandwiches, if that's okay, because it's obviously Kemi Badenoch's interview.
Definitely, I'm here for the sandwich content.
Excellent. We're very pleased to hear it. As you will know, Kemi Badenoch has done an interview. She's expressed some strong views on the subject. She says she doesn't think they're real food. You famously battled with a bacon sandwich about 10 years ago, and you'll be pleased to know we're not going to show the pictures. Has that changed your view on sandwiches? What's your feeling about them now?
I mean, look, you know, I wish I could have a cross-party consensus here with Kemi Badenoch, but I can't. You know, I think I need to persuade her of the delights of a bacon sandwich.
Good to talk to you this morning, Ed Miliband. Thanks very much indeed. We all know what's on your lunch menu now. Thank you.
Based on Buji, look, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's utterly ludicrous.
Do you know what? I think they should have used that segment to talk about what happened with the Southport girls.
Yes.
Why aren't we speaking about
Not
that?
one question. Not one question has been asked to a Labour minister, not one, by the mainstream media about what Starmer and Yvette Cooper knew when about Axel Rudakabana and the charges of him having an Al-Qaeda manual and also producing ricin at his home. Not one question, but they will stop to ask Ed Miliband about bacon sandwiches.
It's just all there to distract us. They just put out these silly stories to distract us from what's really going on in the UK. Going on for the Southport, I definitely think there is a bigger cover-up. First and foremost, the images of this young man is not consistent. The first image I saw was an old man. Then they went to this young man. I'm not sure if people have noticed, but the actual images of him, they look very AI. It doesn't look real. And they definitely are trying to cover it up. But let's also talk about the grooming scandal that's going on in Britain, where 2,000 young British girls are actually being groomed, kidnapped and drugged, and nobody's talking about that. But yet we're here talking about sandwiches and bacon. I think our media is just absolutely ridiculous, and it just needs to start getting a bit more serious.
Because
leave that for daytime television.
Yeah, because last week, Sophie Corcoran, it was Greg Wallace, wasn't it? And the fact that Greg Wallace had maybe made some inappropriate jokes years ago, and that was considered the biggest story of the day. It does often feel like there are diversionary tactics going on, especially when it comes to the Southport massacre cover-up. But first, do you know how often I talk about the need for free speech to be protected? Well, I've been increasingly thinking of the need for personal protection from snoopers, bad actors, and hackers online. And I'm delighted to tell you I have now found the fail-safe solution. But what's more, this VPN or virtual private network is also a life changer when it comes to providing you entertainment and information from anywhere in the world. So let me introduce you to Surfshark. I love it. It's such a good service, totally easy to use. And what it does is encrypt all your internet traffic, translation, keeping your online activity safe so you can shop, stream, browse, bank online in complete privacy. But the benefits of Surfshark go way beyond keeping you safe online. It allows you to access your favorite entertainment and news shows and news channels and international streaming services like Hulu, iPlayer, HBO Max, Peacock, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and Netflix. So within seconds, you can be watching any of those services as if you're in another country, which often gives you access to lots of content which may be geo-blocked. Very helpful as well if you're traveling for work or on holiday, because it means when you're overseas, you can continue watching your sports content or other content actually from home, which is also geo-blocked. It's really a good protection against creeping censorship too. I always use the example actually of France, which, believe it or not, makes it impossible to watch Rumble now. But Surfshark allows you to watch anything, anytime, anywhere. It is true freedom. A VPN is also a big money saver because you can access sales on websites that change their prices depending on where you're accessing them from. There are other benefits of Surfshark too. You can use it on unlimited devices, meaning your entire household can stay safe with just one subscription. There's over 3,200 servers in over 100 countries. This means a world of choice is at your fingertips with 24/7 customer service too. Really helpful actually if this is your first time using a VPN, although I promise you I've signed up quite a long time ago now, gone through the whole process. I love using it, but I also find it incredibly user-friendly. So surfshark.com/outspoken is the address for an extra 4 months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. Check this out too. If you're not totally happy with the service, after 30 days, you will get all your money back. So let me just repeat that website address now, www.surfshark.com/outspoken for an extra 4 months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. But now, back to the show.
Yeah, of course. And I sort of touched on this when Number 10 got involved in the Greg Wallace scandal. Yeah, okay, the guy's probably said stuff that's stupid and, ignorant, but I don't recall Number 10 really getting involved in defense of the 2 police officers that were attacked by those guys at Manchester Airport, who, by the way, 5 months on, still somehow haven't even had charges laid against them, even though it's on video. And now let's look at the US. I mean, that guy, killed that healthcare CEO, and they've got him stringed up in prison within a matter of days. So why can't we do that same thing? And, they also, again, didn't have anything to say about the poor woman that was screwdrivered to death by the asylum seeker. So they're more than happy to take the easy route and condemn Greg Wallace, but we've got massive issues in terms of female safety and welfare in this country, largely due to immigration and other issues that they just don't want to talk about. I mean, but again, we just let them get away with it. We need strong opposition in this country, and it's just not there at the minute.
Totally agree. And also that's why we need a strong independent media too, because we will talk about the issues in a way that the mainstream media won't. And I have been totally disgusted even since I've launched Outspoken just to see the subjects that are completely covered up. The secrets about Keir Starmer's private life being another example. I did just want to show you, Sophie, though, before we move on from Kemi Badenoch, this exchange between Emily Hewitson, the young conservative activist, and Father Phil Harris, because Emily wrote, hard to deny that reform is stealing the limelight at the minute and winning all the big arguments. Kemi Badenoch needs to stop talking sandwiches and start being far bolder. And Reverend Canon Father Harris replied saying the Conservatives are finished and will never be trusted again. Loyal is commendable, but in this case misplaced. There is no root and branch. That is what was required. It's too late now. When you hear Father Canon speak like that, do you think he might have a point that actually it is just time for all of the great youngsters like you and Emily Hewitson, people who can be part of a political movement for decades to come, to actually just accept the Conservative Party is dead and we are going to move on to something new and revolutionary to save this country?
Well, I certainly think that the the way the current Conservative Party is dead. And the only way that there will be any Conservative Party left if there's radical change, and I mean radical change, and we're not seeing that at the moment, which is one of those difficult things. But I suppose for young people, we need a shift for the right. As I wrote in my piece that I wrote for the Express this week, the immigration is the number one factor for why young people are struggling in Britain. And because all of the problems that we face, whether it be housing, whether it be, with our social services, they're crumbling. And it is my generation that ultimately is bearing the greatest burden on that. And Labour aren't producing anything positive in that matter. I mean, they've come out this week and said that they're building 1.5 million homes. But in the same time, they're allowing 2.5 million people to come into the country. And the only way that we're really going to fix the problems that young people are facing in Britain is if, for example, if your bath is overflowing, you don't just start mopping up before you've turned off the tap. Otherwise, the water's going to keep running. You're going to be mopping up forever and you're going to get nowhere. And that's what the Conservatives did and what this Labour government are doing in order to deal with our public services. We can build 1.5 million houses. That's absolutely fantastic. But there's no point doing that if we're letting 2.5 million people in. Year on year on year on year, we've increased NHS spending significantly. Yet year after year after year, we've got the same story over and over and over again. The NHS is on the brink. The reason for that is immigration. The only way that we are actually going to get a grip of Britain, and this has a massive impact on my generation the most, is by turning off that immigration tap. In actual fact, in some cases, pulling the plug out. And this is why I've said for my own generation, the only form of net zero that we should actually really be supporting, and that is actually going to change our lives and protect our futures in this country, is a net zero immigration strategy. That's the only form of net zero that is going to secure our future, because at the moment we can't get homes. It might actually even be too late for my generation. We can't get homes, can't get jobs. Britain is becoming more unsafe. Our public services are crumbling. And this is what we've got to do. But at the moment, the Conservatives aren't realising that. And they had a massive part to play. And the more young people are waking up globally in France, in Germany, in the USA, is people are starting to understand actually the fact that immigration and mass immigration, the way it is completely taking away our futures in this country. So, yeah, I think the more the Conservatives are failing to acknowledge that. And I do feel bad in a way for Kemi Badenoch, because she's always going to have this thing of, well, this is what the Conservatives did in the past. They're responsible for this. They're responsible for this. And I do think people need to give her a chance to perhaps fix it if she wants to, but it needs to be a genuine attempt.
Very good points. Very, very good points. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.